Welcome to the Adult Swim Podcast. I'm Matt Harrigan. Today I'm in Burbank with four members of the art and comedy collective Wham City. Ben O'Brien, Robbie Ratcliffe, Dina Kelberman, and Alan Resnick. These guys have made a lot of stuff for Adult Swim over the years. Now they're going to talk about it.
So I have bought so far 8 eShop vouchers.
Is that $800?
$400.
And at what
well,
point
it's less than that.
do you feel like you officially have a problem?
I do acknowledge that I have a problem.
How many spreadsheets does it take for you to, you know what I mean?
Well, the problem I think was that
Save it for the podcast.
All right.
This is interesting.
We didn't need to
Record it all this time. What were you guys talking about?
I was talking. Well, they were.
Robbie's defending his spreadsheet.
They're criticizing me because I only just recently I have a spreadsheet for it's like how much money I spend on video games versus how much I play video games.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the total amount of money and total amount of hours in the front column of the spreadsheet.
Yeah. Do you use Excel?
No, I use Google Docs.
We use Google for everything.
Yeah, we use
Google
for
Sheets
everything.
is what it's called.
Sheets, yeah.
Google Sheets?
Yeah.
Google Sheets.
Google Sheets.
Oh.
Yeah, pour one out for Google Sheets. Wait.
But everybody has like a bunch of different email addresses, and it confuses things sometimes.
Mm-hmm. What are yours?
Well, I have one that's just my full name at gmail.com, and then I have the Robbie at Wham City email account.
Can I say all of my email
Yeah.
addresses?
We're
Yeah.
going to go around.
Ben at abvideosolutions.com, Benjamin Franklin O'Brien at Gmail, Benjamin at Gmail, Ben O'Brien at Gmail.
Yeah. Do you check them all
Wham City
regularly?
Comedy at Gmail and AV Video
sorry.
Solutions at Gmail. And they all
forward.
funnel towards one account.
Yes.
Oh, they all go to one
Yeah.
hopper.
Yes. Yeah.
What I'd love to see is how I would love to be able to remember all of the different Hotmail accounts that I had back in the day.
Let's go around the horn. I'm Matt.
I'm Robbie.
Hey, Robbie. I'm Ben.
My name is Alan.
I'm Dina.
You might know them as Wham City.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes, but missing today
Semi.
is Cricket.
We're
Yeah.
missing Cricket.
Where's Cricket?
She's at a wedding,
wedding.
in New England.
Who else is in Wham City? It's a collective, right?
It's a very
This is a very long answer.
this is a very confusing
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
thing.
What are you?
We're like the West Coast Avengers. Does that make things easier?
Nope.
All right.
No, Wham City started as an event space and music collective and arts collective.
started as a space.
And
Yeah.
It did start as a space, I believe.
It started as a room.
Dina's given me
It
the
started as a
so-so
fake name of a
symbol.
new dorm
Sure,
at
sure.
Purchase College.
We don't have to go back
It's
that
then
far.
applied
Why
to the
not?
music space and collective of a bunch of us that moved to Baltimore, which was like an amorphous group, and it was already confusing then.
Yeah.
And then Ben started heading like a comedy branch of that, which became Wham City Comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And then AB Video Solutions got created, which is Wham City Comedy plus me.
Wow. This
Right.
is like the emails, all the different.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is all the different
But
emails
yes,
that we
we
have.
are Wham City.
But it's confusing. Yeah, we started the video production company, and then things got really confusing because it had a different name, but it was the same people.
Yes, yeah.
Do you think that it's too confusing?
Yes.
Definitely.
It confuses us.
Absolutely.
We're constantly talking about it.
Yeah, we've had so many conversations about changing the name or simplifying it some way, but that always at the last minute someone steps in and says you shouldn't change the name. You shouldn't
From Wham City.
from Wham City Comedy or Wham City.
Yeah.
Wham City Comedy.
Because the original Wham City Collective is like a group of like 25
Yeah.
artists and musicians and stuff from Baltimore.
We need a flow chart of who does what
We
and why.
we could just come up with a new name right now.
Yeah, let's name this group. It's AB Video Solutions without Cricket.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one.
AB, I don't know.
We gave up.
I was having a whale of a time thinking of stuff today.
Here we go.
What?
I was just thinking about because I was trying to think of like all the different toppings that go on ice cream sundaes, and how each person in our group could be, or in this thing that I've been working on, each person could be described by the toppings that they go after at the Sunday buffet.
This is
By their
something-
go-to first choice.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
what do you think?
Well, I think Dina would probably be going for something like the mint chocolate chips, maybe.
No,
No,
I like wet nuts.
you like what nuts? See, this is good. I go for the graham cracker dust. I'm gonna guess that Ben might go for the chocolate cookie dust.
I'm gonna go for the crunched up Reese's peanut butter cups.
See, I'm getting this all wrong.
I don't think Alan can eat any of it.
No, Alan can't eat anything. You could just
Are you
You can eat the dry nuts.
impaired? Do you have difficulties with different foods? Mm-hmm. Really?
Sugary stuff.
Allergies?
Kind of, yeah.
Diabetes?
It's like a full body yeast infection. I
Really?
get sick if I eat sugar.
Really?
Yeah.
What happens?
My neck hurts, and I get really sick, and
Your
I get
neck hurts.
sleepy.
That
Yeah.
sounds ambiguous.
yeah.
My neck and my shoulder muscles cramp up terribly, and
Really?
then I just have to like be lazy for a couple days.
What causes that?
It's the yeast feeding on the sugar.
It's called
apparently.
candida. It fills his,
Really?
his weak
Yeah.
body.
Wow. Can we see it?
You can see it if I spit into a clear cup of water.
Wait, really?
Yeah,
What do you
is
see?
it?
like stringy
Really?
string.
The
It's
spit. turns
it's
into,
not
like,
so bad anymore, but
stalactites.
I've been.
Is it
you
a
know,
disease?
It's
Condition.
It's a condition.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
It's a
acquire it or were you born
situation.
with it?
I think you acquire it from just being unhealthy and eating poorly.
Was that what you were doing?
I think so. But I stopped doing that, and it has helped.
You can also get it from being on antibiotics for a
Yeah,
long period
yes.
of time.
Huh. Well, we're wishing you the best.
Thank you. I'm doing pretty good.
This is going great so far.
Yeah.
How do you end up in Baltimore?
How do we end up in Baltimore?
A bunch of us graduated from Purchase, didn't want to move to New York City because it's too expensive, and someone else we knew from Purchase had moved back to her hometown of Baltimore and was like, everyone I know here just lives in giant warehouses and walks dogs for a living. And we were like, that sounds good. And she was like, live in this warehouse. And we were like, okay. And then we moved into it, and then we smashed all our belongings, and it was great.
You guys all lived in a warehouse together.
Yeah. There was
Like a slow trickle then of people from Purchase moving to
Yeah.
Baltimore.
By the time I got there, I'm younger than everyone, so I came and they were already kind of done living in warehouses by the time I got there.
How does that work? Do you have walls?
Some.
So you can
Depends,
you can build some walls.
the first place that I lived at in the building was just had no walls, just sheets, and a mostly dirt floor. It was in the basement of the
This
building.
was a building
This was a building.
Yeah.
It was below the parking lot.
below the parking lot.
Yeah.
It's now very expensive to live there, though repairs have not been made.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still terrible, but
But you see those warehouses like the one in San Francisco that artists lived
Yeah.
in and caught fire. Was that a concern for you guys?
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
it became
That
a
caused
big
a big
problem
problem.
in Baltimore because there were so many warehouses and everyone was putting on cool shows in the warehouses, and then after that fire, all the warehouses kind of got closed down, at least
Yeah.
for shows, and it became less fun.
People got evicted. And stuff,
Yeah,
too.
people got
Yes.
evicted.
Yeah, immediately.
Is Baltimore underrated, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not convinced.
Yes, I think so. I think it is very underrated.
It's a great place to go and it was a great place to go and just work on something, to just sort of like start building a body of work
Yeah.
as artists. And it was a really wonderful place to just meet people that were also kind of doing their own thing. But the community was always sort of hemming and hawing as to how cohesive it was.
Does Wham City have an aesthetic?
No.
No.
I kind of, I guess I think we do. It depends on if you're talking about live performance versus video work.
So you read articles and people say experimental art, noisy, art damaged, left field. A lot of articles
Art
say
damaged.
Yeah, a lot of articles say sweaty.
Sweaty.
Well,
sweaty was-
That's
Robbie
Robbie.
is sweaty.
I'm always very
Yeah.
sweaty.
Because
of you?
in the photos he shines,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the rest of us are real dry.
Well, a lot of the warehouse stuff is real hot, sweaty situation.
Oh, yeah.
that's
No.
true. Yeah. It could get sweaty.
We used to do
do-
a summer festival in Baltimore
yeah.
that was, during the very hot months. So lots of people outside in the summertime get sweaty.
Oh, yeah.
Take lots of pictures.
Yeah.
The whole thing with
Sweaty
everybody
people.
working Wartscape was that you wouldn't pee for the entire festival because you would just be sweating
And you would just
continuously.
reabsorb the urine
Yeah.
in your body.
Yeah.
Wartscape. Tell us about Wartscape.
That was the festival. I guess Dan started it, and how many were there?
Dan Deacon.
Yeah.
Yes. It's 5, maybe?
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
I don't know.
I know if
It
I...
was really fun and insane and made everyone feel like they were going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was... I don't remember why. I think Dan just wanted to start a festival. You know, he had been touring for a few years, and he met all these different bands and people, and just came up with a reason to have them come visit him.
Yeah.
Dan's good at thinking up an idea that seems impossible and then getting everyone to actually do it.
Yeah, but it was stuff like that. I feel like that, like there was a thing about Wham City, which was that there were a lot of musicians and like multimedia artists and just people doing all these different things, but there was a surprising amount of like everyone doing some sort of theatrical performance. Like it was just like everybody kind of was involved in some aspect of theater performance as well, and so Wardscape was definitely sometimes like an opportunity for everybody to like come up with something, which I think also like bled into what started kind of what the seed of Wham City comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, there was a theater night. Yeah, and everyone did wild stuff. That was the first time I ever performed, and I got introduced to all of you, and everyone was doing such weird, funny stuff.
Yeah.
It kind of just made sense that we would start doing live comedy.
Yeah.
So people would say it's weird and it's funny and it's DIY, and maybe that's why it's sweaty, because you guys
Yeah.
perform it, but you also sort of build it,
Yeah,
like physically build the
Yeah.
stuff that's necessary.
absolutely.
We're all like art school people, so we're used to doing everything ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
We definitely ruin our lives for art projects.
Do you feel like your lives are ruined?
Not as much anymore, but
Yeah.
before, absolutely.
We're trying to figure out how to do things without ruining our
Yeah,
lives.
well,
and
we
we're
didn't-
bad at figuring it out.
I think we're getting better.
We didn't realize people would give you money for things, so we would just break our backs doing everything as cheaply as we could, and
Just because you wanted to do it.
yes,
Right.
because we thought it would be cool or funny.
When did you first get paid for it?
The first real
As
paid,
a group?
well, I mean, the first big budget we had was for the first infomercial.
Yeah, live forever as you are now.
Yeah.
But we still did it in a very
That was
Baltimore way.
I was in a
just
warehouse.
That was in
Yes,
that
we
was in
shot
New
that
Ben and I-
entirely in a warehouse.
Lived in a warehouse, and we had the set built into our house.
Live
Yeah.
forever as you are now. How did that come about?
That was
from the
that was
comedy
based
tour.
on a performance that he toured on the comedy tour, and he also toured it with Dan Deacon.
Yeah. Dan was friends with Dave Hughes,
Yeah.
who was coming to our comedy shows, and just suggested that we pitch something to Adult Swim, which I think was something none of us had ever considered pitching anything to anyone.
Why not? It hadn't crossed your mind for some reason.
Well, I think that's like part of Baltimore being the way. It's like you just don't. It's like we were so in kind of our own world with the art scene, and we just felt you're kind of far away from like New York or LA, so you're just kind of like doing everything.
I don't think most people think they can
Yeah.
go pitch to a television
There
network.
definitely are people who think they
There
can
are
pitch.
people, but not like
Yeah.
They email me all the time.
Yeah.
I think it was something that we were like, oh, that would be cool, but none of us really knew the process or who to talk to or how to get in a room where
Literally sitting at a desk, do I call someone?
Right.
Yeah, what do you
Yeah,
do?
how do you
Yeah.
do it?
Yeah. So how did you do it?
Well,
You got Dave
yeah.
Hughes.
Dave just suggested we
got-
do something, so we all sat down and came up with crazy ideas
Yeah.
for TV shows,
Went through
even
it,
though we
like-
had no experience making anything like that.
Yeah.
we
Went
made
through a
an
couple of-
incredibly elaborate pitch and then also Alan's thing.
So we developed this crazy pitch idea where we basically filmed a proof of concept that took a long time, and then like I think a couple days before the pitch, Dave was like, "You should also pitch
Yeah.
an infomercial for this 4 a.m. block where they're doing fake infomercials," and he had seen the act, so he said that act could work. So then, like very quickly, we just kind of put together something around that act.
Not what you were intending to potentially sell.
No, but we pitched both ideas. One was a big TV show, which it would have been insane if anyone let us make because we had no experience, and one was something more manageable, which was a one-off comedy.
Yeah, that was like already very written. And
Very
Yeah.
written and yeah.
And you had visuals for it. That
Yeah.
basically, Alan. So we did our big pitch, and then Mike Lazo was like, basically like very nicely, absolutely not. And then Alan went up and just showed him just a 3D floating skin blob, and he was basically like immediately like, I don't care what this is. If that skin blob is in it, you can make it.
So walk us through the
Right?
actual pitch. Was this in Atlanta?
This was
Yeah.
yes, this was
Yeah,
in
we pitched
Atlanta, with Dave and Mike Lazo.
So you sit in the waiting room,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Oh my
And-
God, yeah, we're
we're
You're
nervous,
nervous.
very
Extremely
nervous.
nervous.
Is it in the morning?
I think
Is
it was
on
in.
Did you fly down for this or drive down?
Did we fly or?
we flew.
You
Flew
flew.
in
You
a plane.
Did you stay overnight the night
We
before?
we got a.
stayed
I remember we got a
overnight.
hotel. We were very nervous. We were
Yeah,
working on the
no.
Was
pitch.
it the
Well,
two of you? Who was it?
It was Dan.
me, Dan, and Alan.
Yeah.
And but Alan and I, throughout this whole the craziness of us trying to put together, like trying to organize everybody in the larger group to make this one thing and kind of facilitate that idea and then put this thing together, like, and having no experience, like we were just talking to each other constantly, like in this weird anxious way where we were just. And I remember after the pitch, we went back to the hotel. And you and I were so punch drunk, but we couldn't stop talking out loud. We were just like, "Oh my God, it's crazy! I can't believe." We were both laying on beds with like our eyes closed, just talking because we can't like chill out.
Well, the other thing about the meeting was Mike Lazar just said yes, like in the room. He's like, "Yes, you should make this infomercial." And we're like, "Okay, cool." And then like he left, and Dave was like, "That's good." Like
That doesn't
normally
happen.
you don't hear right in the meeting.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to wait a while. And we're like, oh, okay.
Sold it in the room.
But because that was our first time pitching and we got a yes the first time, I think we kind of thought like, oh, pitching is easy and they always say yes.
We like I won. I thought I quit my job. I was like, I work for TV now. I will never have to work ever again. And I ended up making like $4,000 off of this thing, and it took us like 6 months.
It took us, yeah, it kind of. I mean, the whole thing. I feel like took a year of like
absolutely.
talking
Yeah.
before we actually got.
1 year for every 10 minutes. That's how
Yeah.
we roll.
Yeah, for a while we were doing that. We would pitch
it-
something in the beginning of the year, and it wouldn't come out till the end of the year.
It
But
did
that's
take
stressful.
It
Yeah.
took a long time because we didn't know what we were doing, but also it was like the way that would go is Melissa Warrenberg was our producer on that. She's wonderful, and we would just like not know what we were doing. And she'd call me like, "You have to do this now." And be like, "Okay,
You have to
okay,
form an LLC.
we'll go do that." And, you know
She
what I mean? And
definitely-
so we just she's kind of like every time it would just wait until she's like, "Oh, they clearly don't know what they're doing," and then call us up and tell us what to do.
Yeah, she held our hand, and I think we slowly invented all the roles that a normal production would have by like we thought we were inventing them. Like
Yeah.
someone should hold the camera.
Yeah.
And someone should tell the
right.
person what to do.
We should record this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we invented directing and all
How
of
do you
that
survive while you're waiting for this to happen? Because it's got to be pressure to
Yeah.
exist, to feed yourselves, having
We
quit your
all
job.
worked for this really crazy art handling company, except for Dina.
Yeah.
Never did it.
Robbie and Alan worked for this art handling company.
Art
called
handling company.
Art
Yeah.
Handling,
DC.
yeah.
What does that mean?
Like we would go into rich people's houses and like switch out their paintings based on what season it was.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
We make crates for them, store them.
We
Yeah.
were the budget art handlers of DC.
Yeah.
So if someone really wanted to save money, they would go to us, and we would smell bad, and they would kind of get mad at us.
Yeah,
And we wouldn't do a good job, and we'd leave fingerprints all over the art.
And then other people we know worked for the good one where they had like matching outfits or something.
Yeah.
And were good at their jobs. And
Yeah,
were
we'd see them.
organized.
We'd see them out on the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
We would have sometimes to drop stuff off to them, and I remember there was this one time where they were coming out to load something onto the back of like our shitty old box truck, and they open up the back, and it's like me and like 3 other people like asleep in the back, like, and the lights hitting our eyes like for the first time
Yeah.
ever, and they just looking at us, and they're just shaking their heads like with their nice matching suits and gloves.
yeah. You're the laughing stock of the art
Yes.
handlers.
Absolutely.
yeah. Well, who's laughing now?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So live forever as you are now. And when does that? And what happens with that? That premieres, and you all watch it together.
I was at home and I watched it with my family.
I watched it with my family.
I think because it came out at Christmas.
It came. Oh yeah, it
Oh,
came
yeah.
out at Christmas, which was seeming. I mean, we had no idea if that was good or bad, but it seemed like it was maybe better because people were home from school and they
ended
could
up-
stay
They're
up
doing the
late.
calculations that this is a good thing that they've decided to schedule it at this time.
Right.
They must
Yeah.
really believe in us.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like they put it on like Christmas morning or anything. You know, it was like a couple of days before. But yeah, it ended up going
Yeah.
fairly well.
And I think because it was on YouTube, it got shared more, and
Yeah.
it felt like because that went okay, we were allowed to ask to do something else.
Yeah.
So then we started brainstorming on what else we could ask.
Were you ready with something else before it aired?
No.
But you saw that it had done well. Like you read comments about it. You saw it was put on YouTube, and you read the YouTube comments.
Yeah, I think that was our only real
Yeah, there was
way to know.
There was a review in a German language newspaper that we translated, and then it just kept saying the word elf and imp over and over again.
don't remember.
But then I think we just started thinking about the 4 a.m. format, and I think at the same time that kind of like a lot of other people were as well. Kind of thinking of ways to experiment with the audience at that time, like to get away from. We didn't love parodying an infomercial because they're so ridiculous already that like it's a challenge, and so we were excited to kind of like move away from that and come up with. So we came up with just like a bunch of ideas for ways of messing with people at that time.
You know, I think what we started thinking of is what would be what would make us excited if we were up at that hour watching TV.
Yeah.
And that's really where
You
the
made this for
idea came
yourselves.
from.
Yeah.
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 Everything.
Absolutely. I think we try to make most everything we do for ourselves.
Starting from the beginning. What was next?
Unedited footage of a bear,
Yeah.
which when we pitched it, I think it was just called Claridrel.
Yes, yeah. And I don't think we knew what
Yeah.
we just knew that we wanted to do a fake commercial that got kind of scary, and then we just started writing,
Yeah.
writing and brainstorming things that would freak us out, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember some of the original ideas for that were like, or some of the concepts we were throwing around were like, a guy has like arthritis. It's arthritis medicine commercial, and he's like, this kind of like old guy, and then right at the very end, like he's like talking about his knee, and like he's like out on his farm, and he's talking about like his arthritis, and then right at the very end of the commercial, he just falls down the stairs and breaks both of his legs.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the commercial is him laying down there trying to survive. That was one of the original ideas, and then there was another one where it's like two people hiking, and then they get attacked by a bear or something like that.
I think people were surprised that some of your shows, that one in particular, is so close to horror.
Yeah, I think we thought the funniest thing to do in the context of a comedy network was to do something that wasn't really funny, but just took itself seriously and was upsetting. That was making us laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also the best delivery of that joke of a commercial that keeps going. You know, like to make something take you from someplace safe to someplace terrifying, I think is more interesting than safety to like comedy.
So there's a fine line between horror and comedy.
I also find that there's a lot of horror comedy that is just making fun of horror, that is just kind of like, look at this ridiculous violence. And I don't enjoy that. I don't think.
But both
any
of them
us
are
enjoy
about
it.
surprising you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. And getting like a very specific reaction.
A lot of creators come in and they're frustrated by the quarter hour.
Yeah.
Was that appealing to you?
I think we're since then have been ready to like take on longer forms and stuff.
But at
And
that
we have.
point, we were just like, what do we get? Okay,
Yeah,
that's what we'll work
exactly.
with.
But
Yeah.
but because we had more ideas than could be contained in those 11 minutes, it gave us this opportunity to make extra online content, which Dina really was heading up, and we made these kind of took all that energy and ideas and put them into these hidden websites and ARG.
So
style
talk about that, the importance of sort of spreading these ideas onto all the various platforms. You guys do that really well.
I think we just always, like Alan was saying, like have tons of extra ideas, and so it's just natural for us to be like, well, where can we throw this?
Yeah,
Well,
we get carried away and excited, and by continuing the concept into like another area, and then we just all get really pumped about it, and then we do it.
Like, give us an example of something that was successful.
Well, the Claridrel website
The
was
Claridrel website.
pretty. I was really happy about because I remember Dave Hughes was like I was just like going insane and making all
You're
this
making these
stuff.
hidden games
And
and
Dave
things.
was like, "Don't spend too much time on this because no one it's possible no one will ever
Yeah.
find it." And then the morning I got up after it aired, Alan was like, they went through
They
every
found
single
everything.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
would make, we could see them making like Google Docs or, Reddit forms where they were like, oh, if you click on this thing and go in here, you can do this and this and this. And it was really fun for us to see people find all the little things that we hid that, we weren't sure if anyone was ever going to see.
Yeah.
And so
That was really, really exciting. I think that really fueled
Yes.
a lot of what we did after that.
Yeah,
They were like looking at the
absolutely.
code, and I would go in and update and add stuff in there. And we were
Right.
just like, okay, these people are
Why do
crazy.
people respond to that, do you think?
It's fun.
I think
Yeah.
it's fun. I also think it has to do with the fact that it was an open-ended, more ambiguous narrative where there weren't clear, a lot of times you watch a show that has a very obvious beginning, middle, end, and you can just say, oh, this is what happened, and you don't need to think about it more. But because that was this weird short thing that seemed like there was more to the story, people were had a reason to look for more.
Well, and it's like the thrill of discovery thing. It's like it used to be people passing around VHS tapes of like, I can't, like, look at this crazy thing, and that's a similar audience, I think. But now it's like, that's not a thing anymore, so it's this new version.
And there were people on YouTube who were like analyzing our videos in a way that we could have never predicted or expected, where there were, you know, like several hour-long videos of people breaking down all the hidden messages and symbols.
And not hidden messages.
And not, and making meaning out of continuity errors or things that we actually did. So there was this, it was just very interesting to watch people interpret our art and analyze it. And so when we made This House Has People in It afterwards, we just had that concept from the beginning to embrace that and really go crazy.
So that was your third infomercial.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there was also, with that one too, we ended up making like 2.5 hours of extra content, including like videos and voicemails and things like that. But I think there was also just like, we had all this desire to expand, like make more, like spend more time with these like characters in this world. And so I think that was like one of the appeals of doing it as well, was like, well, we had this whole idea for a series of that, so we were like, so we had all these ideas for the family and all the different kind of weird things they could do. So we kind of got to still do that in a way that where we didn't get paid for, but was really fun.
That's something
We're always trying to find ways to do a lot of work without getting paid.
Yeah. We always want to do more for less.
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are the opposite.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Well, we feel like we don't deserve money.
Right. Why is that? Is that true?
I think it is a little
I
true.
think that we do have a lack of like entitlement in that way, and I think that's a part of like the Baltimore thing, and also why we do these put a lot of extra effort into these infomercials, because we like don't take anything for granted. So we're like trying to make the most out of the 11 minutes that we get, so that it's like, you know, people are watching it over and over again instead of just once, or they're, you know, then they're going to the website and spending time 2 more hours with the content, you know, so then it becomes for them like a much bigger thing.
So it has a real depth to it.
Yeah, and we were living in like a weird warehouse in Baltimore, so it's like, what am I going to do? Might as well just, you know, put everything I have into this.
Then did you get frustrated that you were making one-off infomercials? Did you want a bigger commitment to something?
Yeah. I mean, the ideas we were coming up with, and especially for This Has Its People in It, were to things that we could make serialized and you could come back to and have multiple episodes of. So I think we started trying to think more in that way.
Yeah, definitely. We want to expand and to other things.
And then, so where did that land after This House Has People in It?
Well, the next thing that we did was the mirror for IFC.
IFC, yeah.
What was that?
That was the first time that we actually were able to do like a multi-episode like web series. And it was about a cult, and they're sort of like the episodes are presented as like VHS cassette like lessons that you would get as part of like a subscription to a service of some kind.
Mm-hmm. A cult service.
A cult service.
And what was it like working with IFC?
It was good. It
was good.
They were like, we have no notes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh.
It was very, because we had gone through with like This House Has People in It, Unedited Footage of a Bear. We'd gone through a number of different like revisions on the scripts with the the people that we were working with on the Adult Swim side, and IFC was just very much more hands off in a way that really kind of threw us off at first.
Yeah, we were like, well, we have notes.
Yeah. Well.
Why didn't you have notes?
Yeah.
Were they paralyzed by the concept? What do you think it was?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't.
They think it was perfect and it doesn't need notes?
I think that they just thought that we were perfect.
Yeah.
That we were just like that we had been brought down from heaven to give them this web series. And they believed in it so much that they
didn't want to talk to us.
Didn't want to talk to us after that.
Yeah, or during.
They were intimidated.
Yeah.
So what brought you back to Adult Swim then?
Well, Dave Hughes was like, you should talk to Matt Harrigan about the AdultSwim.com stuff that they've been cooking on, and we think that he was basically like, I think there's some room there for you guys to play around with.
Yeah.
Play around in.
Yeah.
You play in the room.
You play in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you play around with each other.
Yeah.
And how did that conversation go? Remind
with
me.
Matt.
With Matt?
Yeah.
Well,
Matt was really weird to us.
Matt was really weird to us. I think we sent you like a like a
30 ideas.
catalog. Yeah, like 30 ideas.
It's easy for us to come up with a lot of ideas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It took us a second. I
And-
remember it taking a moment for us to adjust
Yeah.
our mentalities towards live because it's a huge change between pre-recorded and live
Right.
mentality. So it took us a second. I remember we had ideas like "Scream with Me."
Oh yeah, Scream with Me.
And then you were kind of like, "That's funny, but I don't think you could do that for 30 minutes." Having people.
But we were very
screaming.
do I know?
excited about trying to come up with something that embraced the interactivity of it.
And the place that we all landed on was the idea of doing some kind of soap opera.
Yeah.
A serialized style soap opera, The Cry of Man.
1 hour a night,
1 hour a night
every
for 2
weeknight
weeks.
for 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks. The way that we integrated the live audience was through these orange phones that were throughout the set, and the cast did not, or the characters in the world did not know what phones were. They had never seen phones before. They only communicated through letters or tape recordings.
It was an anachronism
Yeah.
in the world of the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people could call in, the orange phones would ring
Yes.
in the middle of a scene.
In the middle of a scene, and then a character would go and pick up the phone and have a conversation with the caller, and the caller oftentimes would be like, something's about to happen to you, or this character is like not who they say they are.
And they'd know things that the characters wouldn't know.
Right.
They could, and so yeah, we wanted to keep it open so
Yes.
that I remember Robbie was rewriting episodes
Yeah.
like as
Day
we were
of.
going the day of to incorporate what would happen on the calls, and it was something we wanted to be able to morph and change.
Yeah, I remember making that was like we had 1 week of
Oh yeah, God Almighty. We were there
1
for
week
3
of
years.
pre-production and then 2 weeks and 2 weeks of the show, and it's an hour long, costume drama.
And Robbie would
Live
write us all these
with
long
calls.
monologues
Yeah.
every
Yeah.
day that we'd have to
and
memorize.
so not only are we like memorizing things, but we're we're doing everything. And
Yeah.
I remember, and also at the same time, we don't know if this is going to work. Like,
Yeah.
no, we didn't know of anything that had ever been done like it, essentially. And so we were, there was always that looming over our heads, like, is this going to work?
Is the
Yeah.
technical connection to the internet going to
Yeah.
work?
Yeah.
The
And
phone's
I-
going to ring.
Are people going to remember their lines that they just got like 15 minutes
But you
before
couldn't
they went on
rehearse because
camera?
you were still writing it.
Yeah,
rehearse
and also
day
just
of.
like we were, we were also like the production team. So like rehearsals would have to break up, so you could go like do some sort of meeting
Yeah.
and like edit videos or edit or look at.
It's like torture.
It's torture.
Yeah.
But I remember after the first episode when they called us, like, you're out. Like, it was over.
Yeah.
Cricket just screamed. Like, just like fell to the ground. Like, she was so stressed out.
Yeah.
It was, and it was an intense. I remember it was that. It's funny because the first season, like when I hear the intro to The Cry of Man, it gives me the weirdest like feeling.
Yeah.
Because it just like meant like we have to go, we have to do this now, and it was so scary. And then Call of War, which is the follow up.
And then you did it again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did it again, but we were smarter.
we tried to learn from the
Yeah.
mistakes.
What did you learn?
2
that we
weeks
needed-
of pre-production,
That you need
1
more
week of shows.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And also
But that
just
still
like
wasn't enough.
Yeah, but you guys also seem tortured by that.
Well, I
Oh,
think
for sure.
because we
I had a great time.
because we had more time for pre-production. Robbie, who wrote all of them, wrote it like use that as an opportunity to make it more complicated.
Yeah. Well, also like we had done the thing with the phones being this, this vehicle, this like communication to the world of the show, the world of the show. So we didn't want to repeat that same. So we had this idea of like having the audience basically like affect the story because they're going to be the voice of this character. And that sort of gave there was an opportunity to kind of like build out a more complicated storyline and like, hint at these larger themes and events outside of the show itself. I mean, there was just like so much stuff that we had never, that like, it was just like, well, we have this crazy platform and we can try things that we've never done before. And we can just like have a hint of something in our heads and then just like put it out into the world. Like, there was one episode where, I was like, I've always wanted to just like play this joke where you start one episode with a monologue, and then rather than going and doing something else, you just go into another monologue. And that was just like a.
And that's an example of something we consider a joke.
Yeah.
I feel like not everybody does.
No.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely not.
2 monologues in a row.
It's a
Get it?
mistake.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
So the interactivity option has changed your comedy a little bit.
It's actually, I feel like that was kind of this thing that was the connecting theme throughout everything. Is
Right.
Like, we're very, like, when we perform live, we're very crowd oriented. Like,
Absolutely.
we go into the crowd a lot. I think that, like, the ARGs were a way of connecting with, a fan base of people, and then, like, similar, it just kind of made perfect sense to incorporate the calls in the way that we did.
And I think
to me.
context is always very important to whatever we do, because we don't always control what our opportunity is. And if someone offers us, hey, you should make something for this platform or this or that,
Yeah.
we try to think what would be funny in that context. What, would be different or unique, could take advantage of the properties of that, even if it's just like Vine or,
Yeah.
whatever the thing is.
It's a weird time to be making stuff. It's just like media is becoming so idiosyncratic, and there's just like, all these new tools and new ways of dealing with the audience. And it's sort of like weird to be older in this world, because like I don't know, like I was never like when I would watch Adult Swim when I was in high school, I was never just like, what would really like be great right now is if I could pick up the phone and I could call Space Ghost.
Yeah.
But that would be cool.
But that would be cool. And but I would never. I don't know if I would have done it. I don't know.
But I think on one of the other podcasts you were talking to I forget who you were talking to, but you were talking about how the bumps felt like the company was talking to the viewers, and I feel like I definitely felt that when I was young watching Space Ghost. I definitely felt like I was watching something unique, and only a few other people in my high school knew about this thing, and we were like, oh, this is this crazy thing we know about. And I think we all really hope that people experience our things that way, where there's a small group of friends who they can be like, did you see this crazy thing?
Yeah.
And with the streaming stuff and EGI and all of it, they can be like, I actually feel like I have a relationship with these people, because they, I send in my art and they show and they talk to me on the and on the calls.
Yeah, it's interesting, because like the way that I watched Adult Swim at first was like where like my friends that had cable television would like make recordings of them, and then like they would like bring them to my house, and we would watch like stacks of like just tapes of Adult Swim. So Adult Swim was always like this very like secret society for me, and it's nice. The .com stuff does feel like a really natural extension of that.
How do you come out of all this and then end up with "May I please enter"?
That's just Alan.
That was just again the trying to come up with something with the opportunity, and that was for the smalls, the shorts that are for the streams. And Dave just asked if I had any ideas, and I was trying to think of something that I think it was like 3 episodes that were 3 minutes long or something. And it's another case of making way too much work for myself for less money, because it was supposed to be these web shorts. I was like, oh, I could do these little house tours, but then it stopped making sense. Like the budget was not enough where I could get 3 different houses and 3 different casts of actors. So I was like, why don't I do 3 different segments in the house? And then I just filmed too much and then edited too much. And I was like, you know what, this is actually 11 minutes, and that's the length of something that would air on Adult Swim. And I don't remember who, maybe it was Dave, said like he was going to try to get it to air at the 4 a.m. slot. So basically we made another infomercial, but for like a fraction of the cost.
So you peel off and do that by yourself. Does everyone stare at you? Everyone look at you and just give you dirty looks? How does that work?
Well, I mean, everything is always.
We're all always doing it.
And also we were all doing.
It's also all these
shorts
projects
at
are
that
Yeah,
different
so-
mixes of all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robbie was doing a Smalls, and Cricket did one called Help. So we often have our own projects that we split off and do, but we help on each other's usually.
Yeah.
guys have a lot of things in the hopper now for the network. Electronic game information.
Oh yeah.
What's that? I know what it is, but maybe you should explain
That's
it.
what Robbie's life has been building towards.
Yeah. Well, Electronic Game Information is the talk show that we do on adultswim.com. It's a video game talk show. It is a place where all of the knowledge of video games that I had built up since I was, in middle school has gone. It's just a overwhelming burden of information that I've never been able to share with anybody until I was given the opportunity to share it to
Share it. at
everybody.
Share it all over there.
Overwhelming amount of video game information.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's as that show is sort of like evolved. It's incorporates. Dina produces it. Alan is like our regular like chat. What do you call it? Chat manner? Chat correspondent.
Chat correspondent. I live in the chat room.
And Cricket and Ben have recurring characters on it as well. So it's like kind of, it started off as this sort of more like solitary project and has grown into, this thing that's more complicated.
Earth Universe.
Yes.
Walk us through that.
Earth Universe was originally a character that I had created. Dan Deacon asked me to tour with him. He wanted me to do stand-up. I said, no. How about I do a wild presentation where I'm like a fake cult guru? He was like, whatever. And so I put together this like this huge character that's performed, blah, blah, blah. And this like cult leader, whatever, and the concept of him was that he was the reincarnation of Dr. Bronner, that he had like read a bottle of Dr. Bronner's and become enlightened or whatever.
And you would.
And he
He's
was
the reincarnation of Dr. Bronner?
That's like what I put on.
Who's not dead.
Yeah, yeah.
And
He's definitely
you would
dead.
chug raw eggs on stage.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I would chug right.
Yeah.
It was like very light. Yeah, it was whatever. And it was hilarious. I'll just say because
it's great.
Who's gonna say no? So anyway, so I kind of had that character. That was years ago though, and then Mason, who works on the streaming in West Coast, he like him and I got to talking because I kept thinking like I should make a show with Earth Universe. He had some ideas like that were similar for shows, and him and I had been. He was an old member of Wham City Comedy, so so him and I got together and kind of came up with the idea of doing an Earth Universe show. But in that way, I'm going on too long, but that way it changed. So when we put it together in this idea of a streaming show, it went through a couple iterations, but what we ended up coming up with was that this character, Earth Universe, is this kind of all-encompassing entity. He can be anything, any object, human, person, animal, and the callers are performing as the other character in a scene with me. And he had been playing around with Adobe Character Animator. And so we can do live animations of faces for the callers to kind of animate these characters. So the joke there, like the concept, or what's fun for me about that show is like we create these kind of tableau-esque scenes where it's like the classic one is I'm a guy in a bowling alley with my hands up, and the caller plays a guy holding a gun pointing it right at me.
Classic scene.
And so the caller doesn't quite know who they are because there's a delay. So the joke is the caller just picks up and they just hear me and I'm going, whoa, what's going on, man? What's going on? And then they just are casually like, not much, how are you? But they're this person holding a gun and they don't realize it. So it basically and then we just go through and I just try to lead them through kind of a funny scene improv with me where I'd never quite let them know what they are until they figure it out.
And they're real short, and
They're
they
very
feel like
short.
sketch
So
comedy
it's
where
like
one
these
person doesn't know what the sketch
Yeah,
is.
these quick sketches, where one person doesn't know what the sketch is. And we just kind of go through and I play an object there, a balloon in one of them and the sun in one of them.
It sounds modern and technology-based.
It's extraordinarily technology-based. Mason and I put a lot of work into it. It's a lot of Mason. He brought a lot of the technology skills to it and the QLab and all that stuff. And then I do a lot of the photoshopping.
Tell us about Speech O'Clock.
Speech O'Clock is it's a show where you have two monologues and you
Hilarious.
Speech O'Clock is also it's similar to the thing with Electronic Game Information, where I spent like 30 years reading video game magazines and not doing anything with the information, and then but in my early 20s, I started reading The Economist, so I didn't have anything to do with that information.
Robbie's shows are all based on things we try to get him to not talk to us about.
Yeah.
It's not an inaccurate statement.
Yeah. One of your interests is
yeah.
for children, and one of your interests is for elderly.
But tell
Well,
us,
also, but
explain what the show is.
The show, I'm getting it.
It's a monologue.
Well, right after the Call of War, you and I talked, and you were talking about how you were like thinking about like educational programming for the
Yeah,
streams.
of course, yeah.
And so, and that kind of, I think we talked about, like, you were like, how does streets, how do like they decide where streets go? And I was just like, I
sound like an idiot.
No. That doesn't sound. That's not an idiotic question. That's extremely apt. I mean, how do like they make those decisions? Like, how many all the processes of like.
How does this get us to Speech O'Clock?
Have you seen Speech O'Clock, Robbie?
Well, so I was thinking about.
So I wrote you a very long email about how streets get decided.
Well, no, I was like, well, how do people talk about these kinds of things? And it's usually in like a public forum. And so the idea was like to create a thing where like two people would have a topic that like, how do streets get made? And they would not know what. So it was sort of the opposite of what we were talking about, where I was like, they will not address the issue.
So you were like, what about uneducational program?
Uneducational program.
But it's still, it's like words and syntax, and it's just like you do get something from that. I think just listening to people.
It's competitive speech.
It's competitive speech. It's a competitive speech game show where people that don't know the answers give you the answers.
Okay.
And the audience gets to decide who did the better job.
The slogan for Wham City is fake answers to real questions.
That's true.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cricket's not here. Describe Become Your Body.
Cricket's a very high energy person, and
Yeah.
she's done a lot of performances where she like incorporates some sort of workout element, like she'll be running the whole time or something, and I think she kind of like took that energy and came up with the idea of Become Your Body, which is a workout show.
Yeah.
I know that for her, she really it's like she wants to actually make workouts. If people actually wanted to follow along, that then they could. But the joke is like she's doing these rapid fire workouts, switching between different workouts, and while interviewing someone about their body, while talking to callers about different topics or different themes, different questions of the day, things like that. And she basically creates a workout that's like, it's like really funny to watch her like try to do all that, and also for the guests to try to answer questions while they're doing sit-ups or some weird thing that they've seen for the first time. And it's just very high, like fast-paced and high energy, which is very much what Cricket is like.
And over the course of the show, you kind of get to see, like, you watch Cricket sort of, like, melt as she gets, like, sweatier and, like, all of her makeup starts, like, dripping off, and it just, like, becomes this, like, very upsetting spectacle.
Maybe.
Back to upsetting again.
Yeah, back to upsetting. Well, Cricket's a very upsetting person. I don't know
Yeah,
if
she's not here.
She's not here, so we can say
So whatever you
It's
want.
one of her
Whatever we
upsetting
want.
qualities.
How do you guys like? Y'all live in LA now?
We do.
What's that like? Going from
It's very different from Baltimore.
incredibly
Is it?
different.
What's
Yeah.
different about it? The coast.
Almost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whether
Everyone knows each other.
Yeah. It's a big community of people doing similar stuff. There's lots of people to bounce ideas, a lot more people to bounce ideas off of, and you have access to beautiful mountains,
There's an ocean.
and there's an
I
ocean that you
guess
go
we had that.
swimming in.
It's a funny mix of like so many things you can do,
Yeah.
but they're all also kind of so hard to do.
Yeah.
Like getting there takes longer. They're way more. Everything's way more packed. It's like your friend is an hour away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's all these other there's so many more opportunities and things to do. So it's like it's a nice mix.
It's aggressively pleasant.
It's
And
yeah.
Baltimore
aggressively
is
pleasant.
aggressively difficult.
Yes. Good way to put it.
Also, having just being in the same city as an Adult Swim office streaming studio, like we've been able to kind of come in here and I feel like be a lot more playful with like our ideas and kind of come up with stuff that's not as Difficult. I don't know. What was I going to say?
Baltimore is, I mean, rough,
Baltimore's rough.
gloomy,
It's also
Gloomy.
small.
small.
It's
So-
incredibly small. You cannot leave the house without running into
Yeah.
every single
Yeah, you
person
s-
you know
and-
who has known you for 20 years and knows everything about your life.
And after you've been there for a while, you're rarely going to stumble upon something new. Whereas here you can drive in any direction and be like, I've never seen anything like this before. This is
Yeah.
crazy.
There's also always stuff going on in Baltimore,
Yeah.
though. I feel like it was a great place to be in my 20s, and then when I stopped wanting to attend anything, I was like, fuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought it was an awesome place to be in an art scene.
And it's
I
super
think, and-
supportive.
Yeah,
Super
super
supportive.
Everyone
It's
would
like
help you
very
out.
small town.
Everyone
community
wanted to help you out,
situation.
and I feel like, at least my impression of here, everyone would expect to be hired and paid, and
Oh yeah.
which is they should be paid, and but in Baltimore, no one's everyone's just doing it because it's fun.
We did pay people in Baltimore.
Yes, we did when we had money, but there were plenty of times where
Yeah.
we weren't being paid, and everyone was just trying to make something.
We
So
hate paying people.
Your work here now is a job, and
Yeah.
there it was just a calling.
I
maybe.
think
Yeah, it felt
Yes.
more like that. Like everybody's kind of involved.
Well,
like
they're
you're
just-
in Baltimore because you want to be doing some.
Well,
like,
there
you're
aren't
not-
the jobs like this. There.
Exactly.
That's part
Yeah.
of why we
well,
came here.
We would
Yeah.
come
Sure,
here.
sure.
We would take trips here every year to pitch things,
Yeah.
and
And you were starting to get offered jobs and then being like, oh, you can't actually do it.
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
there were times where we couldn't.
you
We had
weren't.
to say no to things because we were not here.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, now you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're here.
Wham City, Dina, Robbie, Ben, and Alan.
And cricket.
And cricket.
Yeah.
It's Ghost.
Is there a song about cricket?
I don't think there is any songs about cricket.
Sorry, cricket.
Thanks for coming on, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Music from this episode of the Adult Swim Podcast is a song called Tarhadazed by Mdu Mokhtar as performed on Fish Center. For links to that and some of the other things we just talked about, go to adultswim.com/podcasts and send your questions, comments, criticisms, whatever, aspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks to Dave Bonowitz for editing this, Mason Ross and Eric Lacombe for recording, and Christina Loringer for her help. And thank you for listening.